What if the biggest clothing brand in the world wasn't about fashion at all, but about science and technology? Picture this. While every other brand chases the latest trends and seasonal colors, one man in Japan had a completely different vision. Meet Tadashi Yanai. And here's the wild story of how he turned fabric into science and built a retail empire that most people completely misunderstand. Born in 1949, Yanai spent his childhood folding shirts in his father's small menswear shop, dreaming of something bigger. While studying economics and political science at Waseda University, he wasn't sketching beautiful designs or planning runway shows. Instead, he was obsessing over something revolutionary. What if clothing could be perfected like technology? In the 1980s Japan, this was absolutely radical thinking. Everyone knew their place in fashion. Want luxury? Buy European. Want cheap? Hit the discount chains. But nobody was calling themselves a technology company that happened to sell clothes. That's exactly what Yanai did with Uniqlo, and he meant every word. Clothing wasn't just about style. It was a process that could be upgraded like software. Forget guesswork and gut feelings. This man built his entire empire on one simple but powerful philosophy. Test everything, measure what works, then do it again and again. He famously said, 1 win and 99 losses. And this became the DNA of everything Uniqlo did. Picture teams of employees constantly running small experiments, testing new products, exploring crazy ideas. And here's the kicker. Most failed spectacularly, but every single failure was studied, analyzed, and turned into data for the next attempt. This wasn't just about making clothes anymore. Yanai created 23 management principles that read more like a tech startup handbook than a fashion guide. No rules about colors or cuts, just relentless focus on small improvements, measurable results, and obsessive attention to what customers actually needed. Yanai looked at a simple shirt and saw infinite potential for improvement. If software gets updates, why shouldn't fabric? Instead of just buying materials from suppliers like everyone else, Uniqlo started treating fabric like they were coding a program. They partnered with companies that could develop completely new materials from scratch, transforming their operations into something that looked more like a research laboratory than a clothing factory. Teams worked on making fabric stronger, warmer, more breathable, all while keeping costs incredibly low. Behind those neatly stacked shirts you see in stores, hidden rooms buzzed with microscopes, climate chambers, and engineers testing fabrics like scientists on a mission. But here's where the story gets absolutely mind-blowing. While other brands played it safe with traditional textile suppliers, Yanai made a partnership that changed everything. Enter Toray Industries. And if you've never heard of them, that's because they're not in fashion at all. They're the company making advanced fibers for airplanes, high-end cameras, and sophisticated electronics. Materials designed to survive the most extreme conditions imaginable. Yanai saw this and thought, if we can make clothing with that same level of precision and care, imagine what's possible. The first breakthrough hit in 2003 with something called Heattech. It looked deceptively simple. Just a regular undershirt, but engineered with a precise blend of acrylic, polyester, and rayon that could keep you warm without any bulk. By 2009, they had sold almost 50 million pieces. That's more than the entire population of South Korea wearing Heattech. People were hungry for clothing that actually solved real problems. Then came ultra-light down jackets around 2009, using incredibly thin nylon and premium down that packed smaller than you'd think possible while staying completely waterproof. These weren't just jackets anymore. They were like high-tech gear that regular people could actually afford. In 2013, they launched Airism, and this is where things got really sci-fi. Ultra-thin microfibers designed to pull sweat away from your skin and dry almost instantly. If you've ever worn one in hot weather, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's like having personal climate control woven right into your shirt. But here's what makes this approach so different. None of these innovations started with the designer sketching pretty pictures. Every single product began with engineers identifying a practical problem, running countless tests, measuring precise results, and iterating until they found solutions that actually worked in real life. Most clothing companies work like this. Designers create concepts, someone else sources fabrics, another company handles manufacturing, and yet another manages distribution. Every step adds time, cost, and opportunities for things to go wrong. Uniqlo threw out this entire playbook and created something called the SPA model, Specialty Store Retailer of Private Label Apparel. They control everything from the initial concept to the moment you walk out of the store with your purchase. Complete control, faster changes, quality that other brands can only dream about. But here's the really smart part. They don't try to predict what will sell. Instead, they start with small production runs of about 30% of what they think might work, then use real sales data to decide what to make next. No more gambling on trends. No more massive inventory nobody wants. Every product has an RFID chip that tracks exactly which sizes and colors are moving, feeding real-time data back to headquarters so they can respond instantly to what customers actually want. Their warehouses use robots and AI software to pick and ship products within hours of seeing strong sales numbers. Remember that ultra-light down jacket I mentioned? They released it quietly in just a few select stores. Customers went crazy for it. Within weeks, they had ramped up production, added new colors, and distributed it globally. What takes other brands an entire year, Uniqlo accomplished in a matter of weeks. But taking this system global turned out to be way harder than anyone expected. The failures were brutal. In 2001, they opened stores in London, but chose locations with hardly any foot traffic, far from where people actually shopped. In 2005, they tried the US but picked suburban malls instead of urban centers where their aesthetic actually made sense. People had never heard of the brand. Sales were terrible. Yanai later admitted, "We opened 21 outlets and closed 16. An expensive lesson." The problems went deeper than location. They were using Japanese sizing in Western markets, so a medium that fit perfectly in Tokyo felt uncomfortably tight in London or New York. Their pricing strategy was completely off too. What seemed like great value in Japan felt expensive in markets where fast fashion was dominating. But instead of giving up, they adapted. They learned. They optimized. Larger sizes for American customers, prime city center locations instead of suburban malls, and pricing strategies that matched local expectations. China was where everything clicked. They opened massive flagship stores in busy city districts and pioneered something called O2O, online to offline integration. These weren't just places to shop. They were live testing laboratories. The layouts were completely open, displays were organized with technology built right in, and staff carefully observed how people moved through the space. This real-time behavioral data combined with sales numbers created incredibly detailed pictures of what customers actually wanted. They could track which colors and fabrics people gravitated toward, how preferences changed by region and season, and adjust everything from sizing to pricing to match local demand. Even fabric weights were customized, lighter materials for southern regions, heavier for northern climates. The Airism project brought all of this together, using data, weather forecasting, and trend analysis to shift production in real time. If a particular jacket was selling well in one city, they could immediately increase production, move inventory, or modify the design for that specific market. Here's the smart thing Uniqlo did. Instead of forcing the same plan everywhere, they started to adapt. They kept their main style, simple, long-lasting basics, but adjusted for each country. Bigger sizes in America? Done. Prime real estate in European city centers? Absolutely. Lighter fabrics for tropical climates? Obviously. They had finally figured out the secret sauce. Stay true to who you are, but adapt to where you are. But wait, there's more. And this is where things get really fun. Walk into any Uniqlo today and you'll see something that might blow your mind. That basic t-shirt hanging next to the plain white ones? It might be wearing a Totoro from Studio Ghibli, a bold Picasso masterpiece, or Spider-Man swinging across your chest. You've probably bought one without even thinking twice about it. This is Uniqlo's t-shirt universe that launched in 2003. And it's basically their secret weapon for turning everyday basics into cultural statements. More than just another product line, UT functions like apps on a smartphone, short-term emotional experiences layered on top of daily basics. But they don't chase fleeting trends. Instead, they focus on timeless cultural touchstones, classic paintings, beloved characters, iconic designs that stay relevant year after year. This makes each purchase feel like a lasting addition to your wardrobe based on genuine cultural connection. The consistency is remarkable. A Disney UT shirt in Tokyo is identical to one in Paris, maintaining brand integrity while allowing global campaigns to launch simultaneously. When new collections drop across multiple markets at once, customers feel like they're part of something bigger than just buying clothes. They're wearing culture. Some partnerships brilliantly combine style with function. Sports collaborations with athletes like Roger Federer incorporate their advanced Airism or Toray fabrics. The production process is elegantly simple. Partnerships run through the same factories as core products, so a limited edition graphic tee can be manufactured right alongside basic items, keeping costs low and inventory flexible. This integration with their SPA model transforms Uniqlo into something unprecedented. Simultaneously, a clothing manufacturer and a cultural curator, capable of adapting successful strategies anywhere in the world while maintaining the exact same quality standards on every single item. They've essentially perfected the formula on how to be both local and global, functional and emotional, scientific and cultural, all at the same time. That's why what began as a small Japanese shop is now a global powerhouse, showing us that clothes aren't just what we wear. They're technology we live in every single day.